For decades, the Democratic Party stood as the undisputed champion of the American laborer. From the picket lines of Detroit to the steel mills of Pennsylvania, the party's power was built on the backs of the blue-collar worker and the strength of the industrial union. But over the last decade, that foundation has cracked. The very voters who once anchored the New Left have begun moving toward a populist brand of conservatism, leaving a void where a historic alliance once stood. This exodus is driven by a deep educational divide. 2/3 of American adults do not hold a 4-year college degree, and for many in this demographic, the political home of their parents and grandparents no longer feels like their own. This shift has turned the Rust Belt into the ultimate political battleground. States like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, once the reliable blue wall, are now the volatile regions where presidential elections are won or lost. Looking closely, you can see the impact of a single policy from 30 years ago, the North American Free Trade Agreement. While it began as a trade deal, NAFTA would come to symbolize a turning point in the party's identity, a moment where the interests of the American worker seemed to take a back seat to the goals of global integration. To understand how the party of the New Deal became the party of free trade, we have to look back to the 1960s. This was when the New Left began to emerge. Political energy started to move away from the manual labor of the Union Hall and toward the intellectualism of the university campus, focusing on social movements and civil rights. By the 1990s, Bill Clinton leaned into this shift. He sought to rebrand the party by courting Silicon Valley and the broader business community, attempting to position the Democrats as the party of the modern professional economy. This new elite consensus viewed trade as a tool for growth. Nearly 300 economists joined the administration in backing NAFTA, dismissing the warnings of labor leaders as baseless and outdated. This chart shows the macro-level result. Regional trade between the US, Mexico, and Canada surged, eventually tripling to over $1 trillion in volume. On a national level, the plan looked like a success. But the focus on total trade volume masked the localized destruction that was quietly beginning in factory towns across the country. In places like Sterling Heights or Youngstown, the economic triumph looked like padlocked gates and silent machinery. The human cost was direct. As manufacturers moved operations to lower-wage facilities in Mexico, the U.S. lost an estimated 682,000 manufacturing jobs. For the workers who found new employment, the penalty was permanent. Their average lifetime earnings dropped by 20%. The economic decay soon led to a social collapse. The union halls that once served as the social backbone of these towns began to close. In southwestern Pennsylvania, the number of active United Steelworkers halls fell from 37 in the 1960s to just 8 by 2022. For many voters, this wasn't an unfortunate economic trend. It was an active betrayal by the party they had trusted to protect them from the shocks of globalization. Instead of pausing, the Democratic establishment continued. In 2000, they led the push for permanent normal trade relations with China, which incentivized corporations to offshore entire production chains, costing another 2 million domestic jobs. By the time the Obama administration pushed for the new Trans-Pacific Partnership, many working-class families felt that their interests had been permanently replaced by the priorities of a global professional class. In 2016, Donald Trump moved to exploit this growing 30-year political vacuum. He bypassed the usual Republican focus on taxes and spending to speak directly to the resentment felt in hollowed-out factory towns, making trade and the betrayal of NAFTA his central theme. While he replaced NAFTA with the USMCA, critics pointed out that the New Deal was largely a rebranding that failed to close the primary loopholes allowing corporations to move work abroad. But the policy details mattered less than the rhetoric. Trump spoke to the anger that the Democrats had spent decades ignoring. This history has created a divide that geography and education have made permanent. Winning back these voters requires confronting 30 years of economic scars in towns where the trust never returned.